Beneath the waves lurks evolution's sharpest silence. Sharks, the ocean's misunderstood architects, and orcas, apex tacticians with chilling intelligence. Neither monsters nor mindless killers, they are precision-built survivors sculpted by time. When shark attacks occur, it's not bloodlust but biology, mistaken signals in a world of murky rules. These encounters spark fear, but the real danger lies not in their teeth, but our ignorance. For every story of an attack, there are 1,000 untold truths. Sharks aren't hunting us. We're just crashing their ancient, finely tuned world without reading the rules. Vladivostok, a bustling port city in the Russian Far East, has always taken pride in its marine world aquarium. Established in 2019, the facility quickly became known for housing one of the most impressive orca shows in the region. The massive concrete and glass structure is a testament to human engineering. It is designed to contain the raw power of the ocean's apex predators, while allowing visitors an intimate glimpse into their world. On the fateful morning of May 7, 2025, Alexei Volkov and Dmitry Kuznetsov, two 10-year-old cousins visiting from Moscow, arrived early with Alexei's parents to secure front-row seats for the much-anticipated performance. The boys counted the days until they could witness the famous Volchik, a 6-ton male orca, perform his spectacular jumps and tail slaps. The marine park had advertised this show as featuring new, more dramatic stunts that pushed the boundaries of what orcas could accomplish in captivity. The amphitheater filled quickly with excited tourists and locals alike. The curved glass wall, advertised as 15 centimeters thick and reinforced with special polymers, separated the audience from the massive pool. Alexei and Dmitry pressed their faces against the cool surface, marveling how close they could get to these magnificent creatures. Alexei's mother had expressed concerns about sitting so close, but the staff had assured her of absolute safety, pointing to their spotless 20-year safety record with marine mammals. As the lights dimmed and dramatic music swelled through hidden speakers, 3 trainers in sleek black wetsuits appeared on platforms above the water. The crowd applauded when Volchik entered, gliding effortlessly beneath the surface before rocketing upward in a spectacular breach. Water cascaded down as he twisted mid-air before slipping back beneath the surface with barely a splash. The performance proceeded flawlessly for 15 minutes, with Volchik responding to each command with precision that belied his enormous size. The boys watched, transfixed as the trainers signaled for what the announcer called the hurricane jump, supposedly Volchik's most powerful and impressive maneuver yet. The lead trainer raised her arm, signaling Volchik to swim to the farthest end of the tank. Volchik charged forward with unprecedented power, building momentum for what should have been a spectacular vertical leap. Instead, he veered sharply toward the viewing panel where Alexei and Dmitry sat. Whether confused by a reflection, responding to an incorrect cue, or acting deliberately, Volchik slammed his massive body against the reinforced glass with catastrophic force. Instantly, a spiderweb of cracks appeared, followed by a horrifying sound of structural failure. One section of the panel gave way under the immense pressure, creating an opening through which hundreds of gallons of water began pouring into the viewing area. The crowd erupted in panic as people scrambled toward the exits, many slipping on the suddenly flooded floor. In the chaos, Volchik's massive head and part of his torso pushed through the broken panel. His powerful tail thrashed in the water, striking Dmitry's leg with enough force to fracture his femur. As staff rushed toward the boys, Volchik's movement caused a jagged piece of glass to slice across Alexei's forearm, leaving a deep laceration that would later require 27 stitches. Security personnel and trainers worked frantically to secure the area and coax Volchik back into the deeper section of the tank. The entire facility shook with the force of the orca's movements as emergency sirens wailed. One quick-thinking trainer managed to draw Volchik's attention with acoustic signals from underwater speakers, finally luring him away from the broken panel and the terrified audience. Paramedics arrived within minutes, rushing both boys to a regional hospital. Dmitry underwent surgery to repair his fractured femur, while doctors worked to clean and close Alexei's wound. Miraculously, considering the enormous power of the animal involved, neither boy suffered life-threatening injuries. In the aftermath, Marine World Aquarium faced intense scrutiny and was temporarily shut down pending a comprehensive safety investigation. Russian authorities questioned whether the facility had properly maintained the viewing panels, and whether the new, more aggressive stunts had pushed Volchik beyond safe limits. Animal rights activists pointed to the incident as evidence that keeping such intelligent, powerful creatures in captivity inevitably led to dangerous situations, citing similar incidents at marine parks around the world. The boys' families declined numerous interview requests, but released a statement through their attorney indicating their intention to pursue legal action against the aquarium. Experts from Moscow's Institute of Marine Biology arrived to evaluate Volchyk's behavior, with preliminary reports suggesting the orca had shown signs of stress and aggression in the weeks leading up to the incident. The physical wounds would heal for Alexei and Dmitry, but the psychological impact ran deeper. What had begun as an exciting vacation adventure had become a traumatic experience that would forever change their perception of these magnificent creatures. 6 months later, Dmitry would overcome his newfound fear of water through intensive therapy. At the same time, Alexei would ironically develop a passionate interest in marine biology, determined to understand the complex behavior of orcas in both captivity and the wild. As for Volchyk, his fate remained uncertain as officials debated whether he could safely stay in captivity or if rehabilitation for potential release would be possible. The incident served as a sobering reminder of nature's raw power and the risks inherent in containing it for human entertainment. Port Elizabeth, South Africa, 2018. The coastal city had long been known for its pristine beaches and vibrant marine life, drawing tourists from across the globe to its shores. Algoa Bay, with its warm waters and scenic views, had been a favorite spot for locals to celebrate special occasions for generations. The area had a complex history with sharks. While sightings were common in the deeper waters, attacks remained relatively rare, with the last fatality occurring nearly a decade prior. Emma Blackwood, a 29-year-old architect from Johannesburg, had chosen this idyllic setting for her bachelorette weekend. Her wedding to her university sweetheart was just 2 weeks away, and her 5 closest friends had organized an elegant beachside celebration. They rented a luxurious villa overlooking the ocean, with a private path leading directly to a secluded stretch of sand that locals called Moonlight Cove. The evening had begun with a catered dinner on the villa's terrace, where the women had shared stories and laughter as the sun set over the horizon. Emma had received traditional gifts from her friends, each accompanied by heartfelt wishes for her upcoming marriage. As the night progressed, someone suggested they cool off with a moonlit swim. The full moon hung low in the sky, casting a silvery path across the gentle waves, making the proposal irresistible. The women made their way down to the beach, champagne bottles in hand. The night was unusually warm for September, and the water temperature felt perfect as they waded in, their sundresses hiked up to avoid getting wet. Emma ventured farther out, more adventurous than the others, stopping when the water reached her waist. She raised her glass in a toast to her friends, thanking them for the perfect weekend. None of them had noticed the fishing boat that had passed earlier that evening, its crew cleaning their catch and discarding waste into the water several hundred meters offshore. They were unaware that this activity had attracted a great white shark, a 4-meter female, to the area, which had been tracked by marine biologists in the region for the past 3 years. The attack came without warning. Emma's expression transformed from joy to shock as a massive force struck her from below. Her champagne glass flew from her hand as she was pulled under momentarily before resurfacing with a desperate scream. Her friends froze in horror, unable to process what was happening as the water around Emma turned dark with blood. Emma's childhood friend and maid of honor, Gemma Watkins, was the first to react. She splashed forward, grabbing Emma's outstretched hand while screaming for the others to help. 2 more friends rushed in, and together they began pulling Emma toward the shore, fighting against the shark's powerful grip on her leg. For a terrifying moment, it seemed they would lose the battle as the shark dragged Emma deeper. Then, after several frantic kicks, the predator suddenly released her. The women managed to pull Emma onto the sand, where they desperately attempted to stem the catastrophic bleeding from her severely damaged leg. Nadia Peterson, a nurse among the group, applied pressure to the wound while another friend called emergency services. The ambulance took 11 agonizing minutes to arrive, during which Emma remained conscious, her eyes fixed on her friends as her life ebbed away on the moonlit sand. Despite the paramedics' best efforts, Emma was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital, having lost too much blood at the scene. The tragedy devastated Emma's fiancé and family, who had been preparing to celebrate her wedding. Instead, they found themselves planning a funeral. The local community, shaken by the attack, debated implementing additional safety measures along their beloved beaches. Marine conservation groups faced backlash as some residents demanded culling programs, while scientists emphasized the rarity of such incidents and the ecological importance of these apex predators. For the 5 women who witnessed their friend's death, the psychological impact was profound. They established a foundation in Emma's name, dedicated to promoting beach safety and supporting survivors of shark attacks. Gemma, particularly affected by her inability to save her best friend, eventually trained as a lifeguard and joined Port Elizabeth's Beach Safety Patrol. The wedding venue where Emma had planned to celebrate her marriage was later transformed into a memorial garden, featuring a sculpture of a young woman looking out to sea. On the anniversary of her death each year, residents place white roses at the base of the statue, a reminder of the bride who never made it to the altar. Marine authorities later confirmed that the shark responsible was likely a great white, displaced from its usual hunting grounds by changing ocean temperatures and fishing practices. The incident prompted a reassessment of waste disposal regulations for fishing vessels operating near popular beaches, and led to installing shark nets at Moonlight Cove the following year. Emma's story became a somber reminder of the ocean's unpredictable nature, how quickly joy can turn to tragedy, and how a single moment can forever alter the lives of so many. For those who knew her, Emma Blackwood would be remembered not for the manner of her death, but for the vibrant life she had lived and the love she had shared with those around her. Hurghada, Egypt, 2015. The vibrant coastal city along the Red Sea had transformed from a small fishing village over the decades into a premier tourist destination. The Azure Marina, constructed in 2008, had become the crown jewel of the region's tourism infrastructure, with dozens of fishing boats and tour vessels docking daily to unload their catches and passengers. The marina's clear waters and abundant marine life made it a popular spot for visitors to observe local fishermen at work, with many tourists gathering along the wooden docks each evening to watch the day's catch being cleaned and prepared. Marina Voronova, a 34-year-old interior designer from St. Petersburg, had arrived 3 days earlier with her husband, Nikolai, for their 5th wedding anniversary celebration. The couple had been saving for months for this luxury vacation, choosing Egypt for its warm climate and world-renowned diving opportunities. Marina had already completed 2 beginner dives at nearby reefs, falling in love with the underwater world of colorful fish and coral formations. That fateful evening, Marina and Nikolai had joined a small crowd of tourists, watching local fishermen clean their day's catch at the eastern dock. The sun began to set, casting a golden glow across the marina as workers expertly filleted fish, tossing scraps and entrails into the water below. This practice, though common, had been criticized by environmental groups for attracting predatory fish to areas frequented by humans. Enchanted by the picturesque scene, Marina had removed her sandals and sat at the edge of the dock, dangling her feet just above the water's surface. She had been photographing the sunset with her phone while Nikolai chatted with an Australian couple nearby about their diving experiences. The atmosphere had been relaxed and jovial, with tourists sharing travel stories as the gentle lapping of waves provided a soothing backdrop. Unknown to the crowd, the steady stream of fish waste had drawn a 2-meter bull shark to the marina. Bull sharks, known for their ability to tolerate fresh water and unpredictable aggression, occasionally ventured into the harbor but rarely approached the main docks. Marine biologists later suggested that the unusually warm water temperatures and abundant food source had altered the shark's typical behavior patterns. The attack occurred with shocking suddenness. The shark, agitated by the water's commotion and smell of blood, lunged upward and clamped its powerful jaws around Marina's right foot. Witnesses later described how Marina's expression transformed from peaceful contentment to terror in an instant, as she was violently pulled into the water with a splash that sent nearby onlookers scrambling backward. Nikolai reacted immediately, diving into the water after his wife without hesitation. The murky conditions beneath the dock and the fading daylight made visibility poor as he desperately searched for Marina. The shark had dragged her beneath the wooden structure, where it bit her leg a second time with devastating force. Marina's screams echoed across the marina, triggering panic among the gathered tourists who fled in all directions. 3 local fishermen, armed with boat hooks and gaff poles, rushed to assist. They jumped into the shallow water, striking its surface to drive the shark away. After several chaotic minutes, they managed to pull Marina from beneath the dock, her legs severely mauled from knee to ankle. The water around them had turned crimson as Nikolai and one of the fishermen carried her onto the pier. A medically trained German tourist attempted to apply a makeshift tourniquet using his belt, while someone called for emergency services. Marina remained conscious throughout the ordeal, clutching her husband's hand as color drained from her face. The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later, and paramedics worked frantically to stabilize her before transporting her to a general hospital. Despite emergency surgery and multiple blood transfusions, Marina succumbed to her injuries 3 hours later. The massive trauma and blood loss had been too severe, and her heart had stopped twice during the desperate attempts to save her life. Nikolai, who had remained by her side throughout, was inconsolable as doctors delivered the devastating news. The attack sent shockwaves through Hurghada's tourism industry. Local authorities temporarily closed the marina for a safety review, and new regulations were implemented prohibiting the disposal of fish waste in the harbor. Signs warning against dangling feet in the water were erected along all docks, and a shark monitoring program was established to track predator movements near popular tourist areas. For Nikolai, the tragedy was compounded by bureaucratic challenges as he navigated the complex process of returning his wife's body to Russia. The Russian consulate eventually assisted with arrangements, and Marina was laid to rest in her hometown 1 week after the attack. The fishermen who had attempted to save Marina were later honored by the governor of the Red Sea Governorate for their bravery. One of them, Ahmed Basir, advocated for safer waste disposal practices and proper shark safety education for tourists visiting the region. Marine biologists from a university in Cairo conducted a detailed investigation and identified the shark as likely a bull shark, based on bite pattern analysis and witness accounts. They emphasized that such attacks are extremely rare, noting that millions of tourists visit Egyptian beaches each year without incident. The dockside tragedy served as a somber reminder of nature's unpredictability and the importance of respecting marine ecosystems. For those who witnessed the attack, the serene beauty of the Red Sea would forever be tinged with the memory of how quickly paradise had transformed into a nightmare for Marina Voronova. Jervis Bay, New South Wales, Australia, 2022. The pristine waters of this natural harbor had long been renowned for their crystal clarity and abundant marine life. The area, situated about 200 kilometers south of Sydney, had been designated a marine park in 1998 and had since become a haven for eco-tourists and adventure seekers. With its white sand beaches and protected waters, Jervis Bay attracted kayakers year-round. However, locals knew the deeper waters beyond the headlands were part of a migratory route for various shark species. Sophie Thornhill, a 26-year-old adventure vlogger with over 500,000 followers across her social media platforms, had built her online reputation by documenting solo expeditions in remote locations. Having grown up in Melbourne, Sophie had developed a deep connection with Australia's wilderness, though she had only taken up sea kayaking 2 years prior. Her channel, Sophie's Wild Encounters, featured weekly videos of her adventures, from hiking treacherous mountain paths to swimming with marine wildlife. On that cool autumn morning in April, Sophie had risen before dawn, determined to capture the perfect sunrise from her sea kayak. She had carefully checked tide charts and weather conditions, noting that a light offshore breeze would make for ideal paddling. She planned to launch from Honeymoon Bay, paddle around the headland, and position herself in the open water facing east to film the sun breaking over the horizon, footage she intended to use for her channel's new introduction sequence. Sophie had set up her main camera on a specially designed mount at the bow of her sleek yellow kayak, with a secondary action camera attached to her helmet. She also brought a drone, which she planned to launch once she reached her destination. The sea was calm as she pushed off from shore at 5:43 a.m., and the sky was just beginning to lighten with a pre-dawn glow. She paddled confidently, thoroughly researching the area and speaking with local kayaking enthusiasts about the best spots for sunrise views. After 20 minutes of steady paddling, Sophie had positioned herself about 700 meters offshore. She activated her cameras and began narrating her introduction, describing the location and her excitement about capturing the perfect sunrise shot. As she spoke, her helmet camera recorded a dark shape moving in the water approximately 50 meters behind her, a large great white shark attracted to the area by a nearby seal colony. Sophie remained unaware of the predator as she continued paddling slowly, keeping her kayak relatively stationary as she waited for the sun to crest the horizon. In a chilling sequence later viewed millions of times online, her main camera captured when she first noticed the shark's dorsal fin slicing through the water toward her. Her narration abruptly stopped mid-sentence, replaced by a sharp intake of breath as she realized what was approaching. The great white, estimated later by marine biologists to be around 4 meters in length, began circling the kayak. Sophie's training kicked in as she fought to control her panic, knowing that any erratic movements might trigger an attack. She kept her paddle out of the water when the shark approached, moving it only when the predator was on the opposite side of the kayak. Throughout the encounter, she maintained a remarkably steady whispered commentary, documenting her fear while trying to assess her options. After circling 3 times, the shark suddenly changed tactics. In a heart-stopping moment caught clearly on camera, it approached directly from behind and bumped the kayak forcefully, nearly capsizing it. Sophie gripped the sides with white knuckles, barely maintaining her balance as water sloshed over the edges. The shark then submerged, disappearing from view for an agonizing 30 seconds, before ramming the kayak's underside with enough force to lift one end partially out of the water. Sophie, keeping her center of gravity low, stabilized the craft. Her years of outdoor experience had taught her to remain calm in crises, though her rapidly whispered prayers revealed the depth of her fear. For nearly 15 minutes, the shark continued its investigation of the kayak, occasionally brushing against the hull but not biting it. Marine scientists would later explain that the shark was likely curious rather than hunting, possibly confused by the unfamiliar shape and color of the kayak. Eventually, perhaps losing interest or distracted by other potential prey, the great white slipped back into deeper water and disappeared from view. Sophie remained frozen for several more minutes, scanning the water for any sign of the shark's return. When she finally felt confident it had truly departed, she began paddling toward shore with powerful, deliberate strokes, constantly checking her surroundings. Upon reaching the safety of Honeymoon Bay, Sophie collapsed onto the sand, the full impact of her close encounter finally hitting her. A group of early morning fishermen noticed her distress and came to her assistance. After regaining her composure, Sophie described what had happened and showed them the footage she had captured. One of the fishermen, a lifelong resident, informed her that shark sightings had increased in recent weeks due to warming ocean temperatures that had altered the movement patterns of the seal population. After careful consideration, Sophie uploaded the unedited footage 2 days later to her channel. The video, Face to Face with a Great White, My Closest Call, accumulated over 3 million views within 48 hours. Marine conservation experts praised her calm response, using the footage in educational materials about proper behavior during shark encounters. The video sparked intense debate about solo kayaking in known shark habitats, with many followers urging Sophie to adopt safety measures such as electronic shark deterrents or companion kayakers. For Sophie Thornhill, the experience fundamentally changed her approach to adventure. While she continued her vlogging career, she implemented stricter safety protocols, always informing local authorities of her plans and never venturing into open ocean waters alone. 6 months after the incident, she partnered with marine researchers to document shark behavior, using her platform to promote conservation and coexistence rather than fear. The footage from that morning remained her most viewed content, a testament to the raw power of nature and the thin line between an amazing encounter and a potential tragedy. In her first anniversary video reflecting on the experience, Sophie admitted that she still kayaked in the ocean, but now did so with a profound respect for the wild predators with whom she shared the water. Kaikoura, New Zealand, 2019. The coastal town had long been famous for its breathtaking scenery, where mountains meet the sea and its rich marine biodiversity. The deep underwater canyon just offshore created a unique ecosystem that attracted numerous species of sharks, dolphins, and whales, making it a coveted location for wildlife documentaries and nature photographers. In recent years, the area has also drawn independent filmmakers seeking authentic oceanic backdrops without the expense of studio water tanks. Tidecrest Productions, a small but ambitious film company founded by 3 film school graduates, had chosen this picturesque location to shoot key scenes for their psychological thriller, Beneath the Surface. The low-budget production had secured modest funding after their previous short film had won accolades at several independent film festivals. Director Callum Zhang had insisted on filming ocean scenes in actual open water rather than using CGI or controlled environments, believing this would lend authenticity to the project. Mia Tanaka, a 28-year-old Japanese-Australian actress with several indie films to her credit, had been cast in the leading role of Elise, a marine biologist haunted by a traumatic childhood incident. The pivotal scene scheduled for that day required Mia to float seemingly unconscious in open water, representing her character's near-drowning experience. Despite having trained extensively in a swimming pool for the sequence, Mia had expressed concerns about filming in the ocean. The production team had assured her that safety measures would be in place, including a nearby support boat with a marine safety officer on board. The morning of the shoot had started with ideal conditions: calm seas, clear skies, and excellent visibility in the water. The small crew of 8 had launched 2 boats, a main filming vessel carrying the camera equipment and director, and a smaller support boat with first aid supplies and safety gear. Marine wildlife experts had scanned the area earlier that morning, reporting no unusual shark activity. However, they had cautioned that changing conditions throughout the day could bring various species closer to shore. Mia had spent nearly an hour in makeup to achieve the pale, distressed appearance required for the scene. She wore a thin wetsuit beneath her character's torn clothing to protect against the cold water. However, Callum had insisted it be minimal enough to maintain a realistic appearance on camera. An experienced safety diver waited in the water just beyond the camera's frame, ready to assist if needed. Filming began at 11:27 a.m. Mia slipped into the water approximately 80 meters from shore, where the depth was sufficient to create the illusion of the deep ocean while still being relatively safe. She floated on her back, eyes closed, arms spread wide as instructed, while the camera on the main boat captured the haunting image of her seemingly lifeless body adrift. The first 2 takes proceeded without incident, though Callum requested a third, wanting to capture the shot from a slightly different angle with more dramatic lighting. Unknown to the crew, a mako shark had been drawn to the area by fishing activities half a kilometer away. Mako sharks are among the fastest in the ocean, known for their sudden bursts of speed and curious nature. This specimen, approximately 2 meters in length, detected unusual vibrations and movements in the water created by the film crew. During the third take, the shark approached from deeper water as Mia floated motionless and the camera rolled. The safety diver spotted it first, immediately signaling the crew, but before anyone could react, the mako darted forward with astonishing speed. It seized Mia's right calf in its jaws, likely mistaking the dangling limb for prey. Mia's scream shattered the peaceful scene as she instinctively kicked with her free leg. The support boat's engine roared to life as crew members rushed to her aid. The safety diver reached her within seconds, grabbing her under the arms and pulling her away as the shark circled back for another pass. The cameraman, former military medic Liam Donovan, dove in to assist, helping haul Mia toward the support boat where other crew members pulled her aboard. Blood streamed from the deep lacerations on her calf as the boat's engine throttled to maximum power, racing toward shore where an ambulance had already been called. The marine safety officer applied pressure to the wound with a first aid kit's compression bandage, while Callum, visibly shaken, held Mia's hand and attempted to keep her conscious. The shark did not try to follow the boat, quickly disappearing back into deeper waters. The local hospital's emergency team was waiting when they reached shore 17 minutes later. Mia was immediately taken into surgery, where doctors worked for over 4 hours to repair extensive damage to muscle and tendon. Though she lost a significant amount of blood, the quick actions of the crew had prevented the injury from becoming life-threatening. The incident made headlines across New Zealand and Australia, reigniting debates about safety standards in independent filmmaking. Maritime safety authorities launched an investigation, questioning whether proper risk assessments had been conducted and if adequate precautions had been taken. Environmental groups pointed out that filming in known shark habitats without specialized safety equipment was inherently dangerous, regardless of preliminary scans. Production on Beneath the Surface was suspended indefinitely as Tidecrest Productions faced potential legal action from Mia's representatives and New Zealand workplace safety regulators. Insurance complications further threatened the company's financial stability, with their policy containing exclusions for incidents involving marine predators. Mia spent 3 weeks in the hospital before returning to Australia for extensive rehabilitation. The physical scars were significant, requiring 2 additional surgeries over the following year to improve mobility in her injured leg. In interviews 6 months after the incident, she expressed no ill will toward sharks, but criticized the production company for prioritizing authenticity over safety. She advocated for stricter regulations in film production, particularly regarding scenes involving natural hazards. Callum Zhang's incident marked a turning point in his directorial approach. 2 years later, his next released project relied heavily on controlled environments and digital effects, a stark departure from his previous insistence on naturalistic filming techniques. When asked about the change, he acknowledged that no shot was worth risking human safety. The footage of the attack, never publicly released out of respect for Mia, was eventually used by marine biologists studying predatory behavior. This contributed to research that helped distinguish between investigative bites and predatory attacks. The experience served as a sobering reminder for everyone involved in the production that even careful planning cannot eliminate all risks when humans enter the domain of apex predators. Praia do Forte, Bahia, Brazil, 2013. The coastal town, situated approximately 80 kilometers north of Salvador, had grown from a small fishing village into a popular ecotourism destination. Known for its sea turtle conservation project and pristine beaches, the area attracted Brazilian vacationers and international tourists, seeking a less commercialized alternative to Rio's famous shorelines. The local economy had become largely dependent on tourism, with dozens of small hotels and restaurants lining the streets near the beach. Praia do Forte featured a natural phenomenon that made it particularly attractive to visitors. At low tide, a sandbar emerged approximately 50 meters from shore, creating a shallow lagoon ideal for wading. Local guides had long considered this area completely safe, as the sandbar created a natural barrier between swimmers and the deeper waters where marine predators occasionally ventured. No significant shark incidents had occurred in the immediate vicinity for decades, leading to a perhaps dangerous complacency among residents and visitors. Bianca Carvalho, a 24-year-old graduate student from Sao Paulo, studying marine biology at a university in Bahia, had come to Praia do Forte with 3 university friends for a weekend of relaxation before their final exams. Despite her academic focus on oceanic ecosystems, Bianca had never encountered large marine predators in the wild. She had often expressed to colleagues her desire to observe sharks in their natural habitat, though certainly not in the way events would unfold. The beach was particularly busy on Sunday afternoon, with approximately 200 people enjoying the perfect weather. The tide had receded around 2:30 p.m., revealing the sandbar, which quickly became crowded with visitors waiting out to experience this natural platform surrounded by water. Bianca and her friends had joined the crowd, taking selfies with the coastline in the background as they stood in waist-deep water. Unknown to the beachgoers, a significant change had occurred in the local marine environment over the previous weeks. Commercial fishing operations had increased offshore, and several boats had established a practice of cleaning their catch while returning to harbor, discarding fish entrails and blood into the water. Marine biologists would later identify this as a likely factor in altering the behavior of a 2-meter bull shark that normally would have avoided the shallow coastal waters. The shark had followed one such fishing boat toward shore that morning, attracted by the scent of fish waste in the water. While bull sharks were known for their ability to tolerate freshwater and venture into shallow areas, their presence in this specific beach zone was extremely uncommon. The combination of unusual fishing practices, slightly warmer water temperatures due to changing climate patterns, and pure chance had created the conditions for an unprecedented encounter. At approximately 3:17 p.m., the first signs of trouble appeared as Bianca posed for another photo with her university identification card, ironically displaying her marine biology credentials. Several small fish suddenly darted through the shallow water around the sandbar, behavior typically indicating a predator's presence. Moments later, a dorsal fin briefly broke the surface about 20 meters away, though only a few people noticed in the commotion of playing children and chatting adults. One who did notice was Eduardo Menezes, an off-duty lifeguard enjoying his day off with his family. He immediately recognized the potential danger and began moving toward the crowded sandbar, waving his arms and shouting warnings in Portuguese and broken English. His cries were largely drowned out by the ambient noise of the busy beach, and many visitors, unable to understand Portuguese, simply waved back, assuming he was being friendly. The attack occurred with shocking suddenness. The bull shark, perhaps confused by the unusual number of splashing humans in shallow water, or simply following its predatory instincts, surged into the crowded area surrounding the sandbar. It clamped its powerful jaws onto Bianca's right thigh as she stood photographing a pelican that had landed nearby. Her scream cut through the ambient noise, instantly transforming the relaxed atmosphere into chaos. The initial bite was powerful enough to knock Bianca underwater momentarily. When she resurfaced, the water around her had already begun turning red. Her friends reacted with admirable speed, grabbing her arms and attempting to pull her toward shore. The shark, executing the hit-and-run behavior typical of many attacks, might have disappeared after this initial bite. However, the panicked reactions of dozens of people simultaneously trying to flee the water created a frenzy of splashing and movement, further stimulating the predator's hunting instincts. As the shark circled back, a Brazilian man later identified as Ricardo Soares, a 36-year-old physical education teacher from Rio, made a split-second decision that likely saved Bianca's life. He moved directly between her and the approaching shark, punching it forcefully on its sensitive gills as it made another pass. This defensive action, while dangerous, proved effective. The shark veered away after this confrontation and disappeared into deeper water. The beachfront descended into pandemonium as lifeguards mobilized and people scrambled to evacuate the water. Bianca, now conscious but in shock, was carried to shore where first aid was immediately applied to her severely lacerated thigh. The wound was deep with significant tissue damage but had fortunately missed her femoral artery by centimeters. A doctor vacationing from Germany helped stabilize her condition before ambulances arrived 18 minutes later. At the regional hospital in Mata de São João, surgeons worked for over 5 hours to repair the damage to Bianca's leg, requiring multiple blood transfusions during the procedure. While the medical team managed to save her limb, they cautioned that she would face a lengthy rehabilitation process and would likely walk with a permanent limp. The attack sent shockwaves through the community of Praia do Forte, where tourism constituted the economic lifeblood. Local authorities closed the beach for 1 week while conducting safety assessments and implementing new protocols. Signs warning against wading to the sandbar during fishing boat return hours were erected, and additional lifeguards were hired to patrol the waters during peak times. New regulations required the local fishermen to clean their catch further offshore and properly dispose of waste, a practice that should have been standard but had been gradually ignored over the years. The incident prompted the Brazilian Institute of Marine Conservation researchers to establish a monitoring program for regional shark movements, using data to create more accurate risk assessments. Despite her traumatic experience, Bianca Carvalho completed her marine biology degree the following year, writing her thesis on human-shark interactions along the Brazilian coast. She advocated for shark conservation and improved safety measures, often noting the irony that her academic interest in these predators had become intensely personal. In interviews, she consistently emphasized that sharks were not monsters, but rather predictable animals responding to environmental cues that humans had inadvertently altered. Ricardo Soares received a Civilian Bravery Award from the state government of Bahia for his actions during the attack. The publicity helped him establish a beach safety education program that eventually spread to coastal communities throughout Brazil. For the residents and regular visitors to Praia do Forte, the sandbar, once a symbol of carefree enjoyment, had become a reminder of nature's unpredictability and the delicate balance between human recreation and wild marine ecosystems.